Welcome to today's deep dive. Normally when you think about the most exclusive real estate on the planet, you picture billionaires outbidding each other,
Oh,
right?
absolutely. Just limitless budgets and bidding wars.
Exactly. But right now, one of the world's most famously expensive sectors, which is central London prime real estate, it's basically operating like a distressed asset sale.
So, okay, let's unpack this. Our mission today is to decode exactly why this is happening. We're looking at the February 2026 Coutts Prime Property Index
Yeah.
and just exploring this shocking anomaly in how global wealth is treating London brick and mortar.
Yeah, it really is a striking data set. I mean, we're essentially looking at a 2013 time machine here.
Wait, really? A decade back?
Yeah, pretty much. So central London property prices ended 2025 completely flat. They rose just 0.1%. But the broader context is that these prime prices are sitting 10.3% below their 2014 peak.
Wow. And, it's not just a plateau either. It's active discounting. The Coutts data shows like 82% of homes in these areas are selling below asking price. Right, with negotiated discounts averaging around 10.3%.
Which is massive. I mean, you even have micro markets like Knightsbridge and Belgravia down 29.5% from their peak, and Chelsea is down 20.5%. It's like walking into a high-end designer boutique and finding the most exclusive jacket suddenly just sitting on a 30% off rack.
That's a great way to put it. But we should look at the mechanics here, because this isn't just a case of expensive things suddenly getting cheaper. It looks, well, much more like a liquidity freeze.
Oh, so what exactly drove that? Because central London has historically functioned as this, global safety deposit box for international capital.
It has. But throughout 2024 and 2025, we saw this intense wait-and-see behavior from global investors. And according to the index, this was heavily driven by the lead-up to the autumn budget and the fiscal policy changes, specifically the overhaul of the non-domiciled tax status.
Ah, right. And just to be super clear to you listening, we aren't taking any stance on the politics of those tax changes. We're just reporting what the Coates analysis says about the market impact. But those non-dom tax changes, they fundamentally altered the math for ultra-high net worth foreign nationals, right?
Exactly. If you can no longer shield your overseas income while, living in a Belgravia townhouse, the financial utility of that townhouse just drops. The holding costs essentially skyrocket.
So international buyers either pause their purchases or just quietly try to offload their assets.
Precisely. And that regulatory shift explains why this price contraction is so heavily isolated to the traditional center. Because if you step just slightly outside that international bubble,
Into the outer prime neighborhoods, places like King's Cross, Islington, or Battersea.
yeah, exactly, Clapham and Wandsworth too, the market there is remarkably resilient.
Which is so interesting. Does this resilience in the outer boroughs mean that the classic city center prestige is permanently losing its shine to domestic buyers?
Well, they're actually seeing positive annual growth and much smaller asking price reductions. It makes complete sense when you consider the buyer profile.
Because outer prime is dominated by domestic wealth, right? Like senior partners, tech executives,
Right?
founders.
People who derive their income locally, they aren't heavily impacted by offshore tax restructuring. They're buying homes to actually live in, not just parking capital to hedge against their home country's inflation.
So that domestic demand creates a strong floor under outer borough pricing. It's quite literally a tale of two Londons. You have one market reacting to global tax sentiment and another reacting to local wage growth.
Exactly. But for those eyeing the central London discounts, the Coates data actually suggests this window is snapping shut.
Wait, shutting already? How so?
Well, new property listings plummeted 35% quarter on quarter toward the end of 2025. That's 18% below the 10-year average. And available open market stock dropped by 15%.
Oh, wow. So if new listings are dropping 35%, let me push back on the idea that this is a true buyer's market. That tells me sellers aren't exactly desperate.
Not at all. Catherine O'Shea, the real estate director at Coates, points to this tightening supply as the main catalyst for 2026.
Right, because at this tier of wealth, no one is forced to liquidate at a 30% loss just to pay the mortgage. If they don't get their asking price, they just pull the asset off the market entirely. It's basically a Mexican standoff.
That is the absolute core of prime market psychology. The ultra-wealthy can just afford to wait.
And by withdrawing their assets, they actively restrict supply.
Right. So when supply constricts by 15% and buyers suddenly return because the tax landscape is finally clear.
The leverage aggressively snaps back to the seller. Those double-digit discounts just evaporate because the remaining inventory becomes so scarce.
Exactly. The uncertainty is gone now that the fiscal rules are set. International buyers know the new rules of the game, and confidence is expected to return.
So for you listening, whether you're analyzing multi-million-pound real estate or equity markets or even just your own business negotiations, this is a total masterclass in leverage. Price drops don't always mean a structural collapse.
Right, sometimes they just represent a temporary friction in market liquidity before the supply side basically goes on strike.
Yeah, it highlights just how fragile the balance of power really is. The moment the asset holders restrict access, that buyer's premium completely disappears.
It really does. It's fascinating to watch it play out in real time.
Absolutely. So I want to leave you with a thought to mull over. If constrained stock and these new tax realities force international buyers to permanently adjust their strategies in 2026, will this recent surge in outer borough popularity redefine what global investors consider prime?
That's a really great question.
Right. Like if domestic demand keeps Battersea and Islington resilient while Chelsea fluctuates, we might be witnessing the permanent redrawing of London's wealth map. Definitely something to think about the next time you hear a market is on sale. Thanks for joining this deep dive.